as a metaphor of interdependence and unity. So as I stand here, it seems that this pulpit is solid, but it's actually 99% nothing and only 1% something. It's actually a mass of tiny, tiny little bit of matter in massive space. This spacious vibration is part of what I know to be the divine mystery, the underlying vibrational unity of all existence. And when we can touch that, sometimes it's in meditation, sometimes it's in song, sometimes it's chanting or dancing. When we touch that vibration experientially and not cognitively, this is a direct experience of that unfathomable connection, the visceral and conscious knowing and being of the interdependent web, respect for which is the seventh principle of Unitarian Universalism. It's a web in which the spider's web is a metaphor, where you pluck one string of the web and the whole web trembles. But we live in an addictive culture, we all know that. Dr. Bruce Alexander's book is titled The Globalization of Addiction, a study in poverty of the spirit. Dr. Alexander says, global society is drowning in addiction to drug use and 1,000 other habits. And this is because people around the world, rich and poor alike, are torn from the close ties to family and culture and traditional spirituality that constituted the normal fabric of life in pre-modern times. Today's society subjects us to unrelenting pressures towards individualism and competition, dislocating us from social life. So what do we do with this broken culture that we're living in? We adapt by concocting the best substitutes we have for sustaining social, cultural, and spiritual wholeness. And addiction provides this substitute for too many of us. Dr. Alexander looked especially at colonizing cultures and the native peoples they dislocated, recognizing the fractured nature of modern life as addictions continue to show up in new ways every day. Think of the native peoples in this land and how dislocated they have been from their traditional culture and how alcoholism has ravaged their populations. In November, I went on a clergy call, a national clergy call to the Oceti Sakowin Camp of Water Protectors at Standing Rock. And the camp was consciously sober and clean. There were AA meetings and NA meetings every day. The 12 steps have been revised ever so slightly in a Native recovery book, The Red Road to Wellbriety in the Native American Way. It's published down in Colorado Springs. And this brings the 12 steps into a circle with 4 directions, which makes more sense to Native spirituality. I heard a local substance abuse expert in Denver say that he used to think with disdain of AA as the college you never graduated from. But then after reading the book, Addiction as an Attachment Disorder by Dr. Philip Flores, he said that the AA program made perfect sense. The book reviews the history of attachment theory and that people with addictions have problems with being able to self-regulate, self-soothe, because they didn't learn how to self-soothe in their early days. So to repair the attachment, you go to 12-step programs with their great fellowship and connection and focus on repairing the self. So both Flores and Alexander point to healing in community as the most effective response to addictive behavior. Now, it's practically guaranteed that any alcoholic or drug addict is a survivor of trauma, which gets frozen in our bodies and is carried around with us in our bodies. And it's also true that people who attend church regularly live longer and are healthier than people who don't. I don't think it's about the theology. Honestly, I think it's about the singing every week, singing and coming into alignment in that way, that heart space. You see here the worship team of Just Living, the new UU congregation with a special mission towards healing from addictions. It is called Just Living, J-U-U-S-T. The 2 U's identify it as a UU congregation. And it will be residential for sober and clean, intentional living and long-term healing and recovery from addictions. And it is built on a vision of radical hospitality and inclusion. And there will also be congregants who don't live there, like you probably don't live at your church. But it's the connection and the community that we're looking for, the kind of connection and beloved community that you might catch a glimpse of in congregational life. And I ask you today to reach for that connection with everyone around you, because they need it and you need it, we need it. We need each other. Use every opportunity you have to reject anger and hatred and rage. Reject isolation. It is an illusion. It is not true. Reject shame. Reject blaming others. Reject those behaviors that isolate you from others. Choose connection. Choose healing. Choose love and respect and curiosity about the people around you. Johann Hari is another seminal voice in addiction recovery community today. And he says that the opposite of addiction isn't necessarily sobriety or abstinence. The opposite of addiction is connection. Our faith communities should be organized for that connection, for communities of healing and wholeness and growth towards life-affirming wholeness. And that's what I want for each one of you, that life-affirming wholeness. And lots of movement and song, the sort of vibration that is healing, that lets us move through and sing through and live through our lives, and it helps shake those places, those frozen places that we can hold in our bodies that are stuck with trauma. So let us walk towards this together, and let me stop talking so we can sing again. Thank you, Eric and Jen and Matt and Eilif. You might know the song, I Need You to Survive, Hezekiah Walker, and those words, I love you, I pray for you, I will not hurt you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you need me. I need you to survive. Thank you for coming. This is the benediction to say, go well, take this into your week ahead. And if you want to stay, we have Eric's own song, Dance, and I'm going to stay for that. But I love you all. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you. Stay if you like. And dance.